verbatim and it becomes everybody else's words that come out of their mouth. Now people are becoming more educated, more aware. Plant-based has grown. It's not a trend, it's huge. It's grown 900% in the last 3 years. And luckily at V-Bites we were ready for it because we've been developing these products for a long time. The only downside that's happening at the moment, which hopefully with our help will change, is that the big corporates think they can make quality products like ours in 5 minutes. And this is years and years of research and development technology. And a lot of products now are going on the shelves that taste awful. And a guy will pick them up and go, oh my God, that tastes like cardboard. I'm never gonna go plant-based vegan in my life. And that's a real shame. But when they come to our products, as in yesterday and the next 3 days at Olympia, we're at the pizza restaurant and takeaway show, and they eat our burgers, our melting cheeses, chorizo, sausages, the 540 products that we have, then it changes their mind completely. They're used to picking up corn vegan products and spitting them out. So I can promise you our products don't taste anything like that. It's very easy to make vegetarian products because you have milk and egg to work with. It's very, very difficult to make good, textured, tasting vegan meat, fish and dairy-free alternates. We are the experts in the world on that. We private label for most of the supermarkets that you see free-from ranges for. We have at least 32 products in Ocado. We're in 24 countries around the world, and we have some of the very few and only plant-based only factories in the country. The biggest problem that I warned the supermarkets about years ago was stop being cheap, and for the sake of an extra penny on a pack, do not produce in mixed facilities. It's too dangerous for people's health, and also it is cutting corners and deaths can occur and severe allergens, and it's not necessary. So even though a lot of us are very against Brexit, I being one of them, it's actually benefited our company V-Bites massively, because Europe, who are selling into the likes of Tesco's, are too expensive now because of the crash in the market. We are one of the least expensive countries in Europe to produce. So a lot of those manufacturers are coming to us and getting us to do the products for them. So more and more great quality yogurts and cheeses and meats, free and dairy free, and fish. We do a great fish free steak range that you see in all the Green King pubs with chips and mushy peas. So we replicate all products from fast food to general gourmet, and it's becoming more and more popular. So if you're in that field of work, or you're investing in that field of work, you will see exponential growth in the coming years. Now, when I first wrote about this for the United Nations for environmental reasons and for on the science side, when I studied nutrition and food science, for people to understand the benefits of it, I worked in food development for a long time. Most people knew me for other reasons. If they read tabloid newspapers and didn't have a life, then they basically looked at that story. But I was a multimillionaire by the time I was 19. I started my first business when I was a teenager. My mother left when I was 9. My father went to prison when I was 13. And I ended up living on the streets at Waterloo Arches for 6 months. I started my first business with stick-on bras, which was quite a funny one, and I sold that. And then I was involved in alternate yogurts and sorbets in the early to late 80s. And I've ran businesses from then on, over 42 companies. I now have it whittled down to 16 companies. I have a venture fund company because I want to protect startups. I want them not to make the same mistakes I made. And with all my mistakes behind me and the experience I have, I'm helping a lot of plant-based companies in all areas, investing in them and then putting them into our manufacturing and becoming more of a powerhouse as a team to get on the shelves in the supermarkets at very competitive prices. So we have over 400,000 square feet of factories around Newcastle and Corby. We are the biggest plant-based park in the world, and the plan now with the 4th factory that we're buying is to make it the plant-based valley like Silicon Valley in Los Angeles, so that the whole world can come and get educated there. Schools, universities, science, technology, labs, and they can see where the future is. I also have an algal oil company, because most people think omega-3 comes from fish, and you might be surprised to know it doesn't. It comes from the algae the fish eat. So just like we always had cow's milk, we finally woke up and thought, why are we drinking someone else's milk? It's quite bizarre when you think about it. We don't have dog's milk or cat's milk. Why are we doing cow's milk? They're finally realizing, why are we killing billions of fish to squeeze tiny bits of oil out of them into capsules? Why don't we just manufacture the algal that the fish eats? Now, at first, most vegans suffered from lack of omega-3 because they didn't understand exactly what to do, because some people can't convert from a short-chain fatty acid to a long-chain fatty acid, so they've stayed with omega-3s. Now we have the perfect algal oil, which has a high EPA and DHA. EPA is icosapentaenoic acid, and DHA is docosahexaenoic acid. And because ours are now higher than most of the things on the market, they basically help brain function, synovial fluid in the joints, everything that you need. And people are quite scared about it in the pharmaceutical industry because it acts as an antidepressant. So you can imagine all those chemicals not being needed anymore because you can get it from a natural source. So they're all now trying to jump in the algal oil market. So our plan is to replace all omega-3s in natural health food stores, so no krill oil, none of those problems, with this omega-3 oil. One of the other companies we have is a protein powder company. We also have a milk company where we do oat milk, almond milk, chia milk, everything. And we are making that in glass bottles because the future, we want to get rid of plastic. And we are setting up machines around all the supermarkets where people can go and refill their bottle when they come back for their bi-weekly shopping. And that's working wonderfully. We've been sending a milk van around, testing it around London, and people are desperate to get back to that lovely glass bottle in their fridge and away from this Tetra Pak situation. So I'm also planning to license our products in the countries around the world that we deliver to at the moment. Now that the demand has been proven, I want to minimize shipping and get people to manufacture with their products within their own country exactly what they're needing. So that's helping the environmental side. And we launch into America in January, the second week, into Whole Foods, because they have a problem with the burger they're currently selling, not scaling up quick enough, and they need our help over there. But we were asked to go in 2009, but we didn't have a big enough factory. So anyone going into business, never make a promise you can't keep, or at least 100% plan to keep. Never get more than 20% dependent with any supermarkets or any big corporate names in the world, because they will pull the rug from under you if anyone comes along with a better offer and a better margin. Food buyers change all the time, so don't think you're in there because you take him for a drink or her for a drink down the pub. They could have left 6 months later. So never start a business if you're only having one client. Always just spread the risk, would be my biggest piece of advice, because I've seen so many startups do this and go under that we've had to rescue because they've gone, oh my God, you know, this supermarket wants us, and who else wants you? You know, really spread it. I became plant-based because of losing my leg after working in the war in the former Yugoslavia. Didn't get it blown off by a landmine. Came back, crossed the street, crushed my pelvis, punctured my lung, split my head open, got rushed to hospital. My best mate at the back, Ruth, for the last 33 years, the lady who introduced me basically, went to the hospital and they said she's going to die 4 times. Ended up in there for 5 months, being pumped with antibiotics, destroying my digestive system. making infection creep up my leg and chopping my leg off more and more. So my girlfriend came in and said, you've got to go vegan. Well, in 1993, that was like, what is that? I'm from Newcastle and we eat sausage and mash. Like, what are you talking about? And where are you going to get your protein from? And all the silly questions I didn't understand because I didn't understand nutrition that you ask. And she dragged me off to America, West Palm Beach, Hippocrates, and they shoved me with wheatgrass juice in every orifice you can imagine. And I healed. Within 2 weeks, my leg closed and healed. I wrote a book about it. That became a bestseller. And then the money from that went to clear the landmines that I'd been working on before. Then developed prosthetics because they gave me an ugly looking leg. So I said, you can get Madame Tussauds, beautiful looking silicon people. Why are you giving me that disgusting leg? So I developed the legs that you see, a lot of them in the Paralympics for sport. This one, the high heel one, which you can't really tell even without my tights on. We do silicon toes and things. So I suppose my whole life in business has been about problem solving. I don't see any hurdles. I just see this is what we've got to do and that's the solution. So my biggest piece of advice would be get some sleep, which is not much that I do, but being vegan, we don't need a lot. And don't get stressed. And before you write an email, put it into draft and think about it overnight and don't just send it, because adrenaline is a dangerous thing and you can say things that you regret. And also don't do dictation into your phone while you're driving, because I have a lawyer called Dara and it keeps coming out as diarrhea, which is, maybe some lawyers are full of it, but things like that, little mistakes like that. Going forward, we plan to make more and more and more products in everything that's more ethical and environmental. The algal oil that we have, every 2.5 tons we grow depletes CO2 by 1.5 tons. We have different systems in Liverpool and in Austria. And it's just about problem solving, whether it's losing a leg. A good tip for everybody that I always find when I do a speech is a lot of people suffer from acid reflux. So we've made these hydrochloric acid and digestive enzyme capsules, which are natural, not tested on animals. And we found that people don't need to shovel Gaviscon. Because what happens, for those that don't know, when you eat something, if you don't have enough hydrochloric acid for different reasons, age usually, it depletes, you can't digest that food. And it doesn't matter how good the food is you're eating, if you can't digest it, you're never gonna get the vitamins and minerals needed from it. So it starts to ferment, your stomach starts to bloat, you get gassy even though you've been on vegetables, which are some of the hardest things to digest if they're raw. Then you get acid reflux come up, and that's when you get that heartburn feeling or the tightness here. All you have to do is get a whole lemon with a little bit of water every time you eat, drink that. If that's not enough, you've got very little hydrochloric acid and you need to take a hydrochloric acid capsule, which at the moment they make, but they are tested on animals, so for vegans that's no good, but for carnivores and flexitarians, until ours comes out, I know what that kind of discomfort can be like. The other thing that we're doing is vegan makeup, because I discovered that the Muslim United Arab Emirates women who have beautiful eyes don't realize that most makeup has parts of pigs in it, and that's against their religion. So that inspired me, to be honest, to look into makeup more. And a lot of companies are claiming to be vegan, but they're actually vegetarian with different animal products in. So that makeup range will be called Be It One, which is available next year. And what we're going to do is become the specialists for all the companies. So for example, MAC Makeup were becoming very vegan, and then unfortunately they went into China. China insists that you test on animals, so the whole system has changed. I'm different on my ethics. I won't sell them out for money, so that can minimize things in certain countries, but there are many other countries in the world that we can work with. And what's very interesting is the Chinese love to buy British, especially in Hong Kong, because I found out they don't trust their own leaders and the products in China because they're not regulated. enough. So melamine in baby formula, all sorts of awful things going on. So it's a big market to export to, but it's not really a good market to import from if you're actually ingesting it in your system. And then other things that we're trying to work on is to get companies to accept that they need to look at the line of where their products come from. Some have some traceability. You know, people like Primark, you know, had little kids in basements sewing on tiny little crystals 24/7, and they didn't really thoroughly look into what was going on. I used to work at the BBC producing many years ago lots of undercover investigative reports for reasons like this. So it's very important you have traceability for where your products are coming from. And the same thing in restaurants. Ask them, did this come from factory farming? Is it organic? Is it this? And start to pay the price for your own health. Just because you see a bargain, there is a price to pay in your health later by ingesting something that's really bad for you. And unfortunately, most people don't realize it until they're actually too sick. So take care of your health, and the rest takes care of itself. If you haven't got your health, you can't be happy. So I don't know what else you want to hear today. I'm just waffling on with jet lag. Has anyone got any questions? No? You sure? Yeah?
Yeah, I was wondering, when you turned vegan, how did you find like the diet and the change of like food every day and like the natural living of being a vegan?
Thanks. When I went vegan at first, I was raw vegan. I don't suggest that unless you've got digestive system of a Wheaten Terrier or a Labrador, because it's a lot of fibre. So you need to sort of do it slowly. I would suggest being a flexitarian to start with, making sure you have some B12. The food's coming round now. This is our vegan duck wrap, hoisin. It's one of our best sellers. That one's not gluten-free, no. The gluten-free stuff's all at Olympia if you want to try it. Yeah. The other thing I want to say about gluten-free, because I've studied this for many years, is once you sort out your digestive system, you can have gluten-free allergies, and they're very, very difficult to reverse. But gluten intolerance, if you retrain your digestive system, it's very rare that anybody has a severe gluten allergy. What happens is, because you've messed up your digestive system over the years, you need to rebalance it. So if you can take some microam and some probiotic first thing in the morning, wait 20 minutes before you eat anything, and do that for a few months, and then test yourself, because I don't want to kill you. I don't know if you've got a severe allergy. Then you will find like 90% of my diet is carbohydrate and 10% protein. There's a massive plug for protein. So we make our burgers 22 gram protein just for people that don't understand nutrition. And they say, oh, where do I get my protein from? Well, I have muscles, and I only have 10% protein a day, because there's protein and there's protein. If you're shoving your body through a lot of meat, protein and dairy, then you're putting a lot of acidity in your body. It's a bit like milk. If you drink milk, it has so much calcium in it. By the time it goes through your body, it's depleted more calcium from your bones than it's actually given you. So it's the worst thing you can put in your body. If you're going to say to me, I want to do things little by little, just stop dairy. Dairy over meat, stop it first. That's why vegetarians can get really sick, because they give up meat and fish and they increase their dairy intake. And that's why you see them walking around looking white as anything, because they're literally living off cheese and butter and milk, and that is horrific. So it's better to be vegan, obviously. And now Morrison's, we just launched our new cheese into Morrison's. So anyone with a cheese addict, because it is an opiate, which is why vegetarians and carnivores find it hard to give up cheese. When you analyse it, it is addictive. So Morrison's V Light, I think it's called, have our new Edam and mozzarella and red Leicester. Grate that on your pasta, macaroni cheese, cauliflower cheese, delicious. You wouldn't tell the difference. That I can promise you. Biting some of them you might, if you're going to have a camembert, You're not going to match it yet, but we will. We're just working on the halloumi, and we've just finished a great feta cheese. So there are replacements. Just do your research and slowly and incrementally, and make a diary about how you feel, because you will just have endless energy. Everything is about our digestive system. If this is not right, this is not right. 90% of our serotonin is made and produced here. So if you have problems with digestive system, that could be why some of you will suffer, the highs and lows of life, because you're not looking after this. So this is the key thing in life to look after, and that will fix everything up here. Any other questions? Yeah? Right, where am I on organic? Okay, so we had a percentage of our products organic when we were a small company. And then what happens is when you grow to the level that we grow, we had to make a decision, because if one ingredient, so that could be just a tiny bit of chili pepper or Himalayan salt, you can't get enough of it, coriander or whatever, then you can't be organic in certain countries. So that meant we were put in vulnerable positions where we were nearly going to have to close down because we couldn't do production because somebody hadn't sent us enough of the product. So if you're a small company and you are focused on organic, or if you're a very, very wealthy company and you can buy tons of product that you can freeze and buy freezer units as big as this, then it's easier. But once you get into that mid-scale level, it's very, very hard to do organic. So we had to do realism over idealism. Ideal is we want everything to be organic. The other thing that we did was, when we were buying from certain organic farms, because of seed dispersion, they would come from a pesticide field, a mile or so away, and that would come over and contaminate the organic area. So there are different levels of organic when you go around testing organic farms. But that really is the future. And the other thing we're trying to do is get rid of this 3 billion subsidy that we have to pay to the farmers to help them survive. We, the taxpayer, are paying that because you all, whoever does, drink milk and have cheese. You're not really paying the price you're looking at on the shelf. You're paying more from your taxes, which is 3 billion a year that could go into the health system or education. But I think it's unfair if the farmers lose their jobs. So we've come up with a system we tested in Austria, which is to make all the farmland into crop rotation that works to make plant-based products. So that's what we're doing now, and that will minimize water problems, slurries, environmental issues. It's a domino effect. Once you start going down the plant-based path, you can actually, if everybody did it, there would be no such thing as world hunger. Lots of the grain from Africa comes back to pay our debt while they starve, and that grain is then fed to our cows to feed us. I mean, it's just madness. So we're coming up with lots of solutions, and we found that the dairy farms we've been practicing on have an 11% EBITDA return on their products compared to making intensive farming for milk and cheeses. So it's just common sense. As long as we can replace like for like in products, everybody will eventually change over when they taste great tasting food, but it has to taste great. The corporates have to learn that the experts need to do it until they learn how to do it properly, because it just puts people off. If they're not going to have a great Sunday roast, you're just not going to become vegan, unless you care that much about your health, the animals and the environment. And you don't want to get to near-death situation as I did before you go plant-based. But sometimes it takes that to happen. Any other questions? Oh, more are coming up.
Oh, I got mine. Heather, thank you so much. That was really tasty. Your talk is phenomenal. But what I really wanted to know is what drives you? I mean, like from a very young age, you started your business, this being a business show. Can you please tell us a little bit more about your business experience and what drives you and motivates you to keep going?
Well, my business experience was survival. My mum, basically, everything comes from personal experiences to drive you. So my mum basically was in hospital and wanted to leave her abusive boyfriend, but she had no money. So I thought, right, I'll start my first business as a teenager. I got the money together and she died 2 weeks later. So I realized money doesn't matter, health is everything. and I got involved in charity, and I saw the difference money could make. So you have to work out who you are as a person. I decided that I can live in a palace or a camper van, and I lived in a camper van for 5 years ski touring, and I thought, right, I'm just going to risk everything. 80% of my profits go to charity, because the press destroyed our charities, so we needed to get them funded again. And that's what drives me, going into a war zone and seeing people in horrific situations actually making a difference by making money. So money drives me, success drives me, and the buzz of business, evolving products, and then what I can do with that final thing is monetary, is paper, and make a difference with people's lives. So if you work out why do you want to have a successful business, if it's because you're still in la la land and you just want a nice house and a car, let me tell you, the bigger your house gets, the nicer your car gets, the more stress you get, the more outgoings you've got, the more servicing you need on your Ferrari, the more this, the more that, the more simple you keep your life, and that you can handle as yourself, the better. So yeah, business is individual for everybody about the reasons why they want to do it. So work out why you want to do it, and if you're a leader or a team player, because the most important thing, which I think has been said already this morning, is you will not sleep for about 10 years when you start your own business. So work out that you are someone that can get up at 4 a.m. and work until midnight for the first 10 years of your life, and you'll have a brilliant business. Do not think for a minute you can rely on other people who work for you to have the same level of intensity that you have, because they're not taking the same risk and they're not necessarily motivated the way you are. My first boyfriend still works in the same factory, married 30 years, perfectly happy, never wanted to do business. So work out who you are and whether you're better as a team or whether you're best leading the team. We're all unique, and running your own business is very, very difficult. There's no shortcut, and you have to work your backside off. As you've seen, I haven't got one left now.
Yeah, Heather and Ian Downey, just first of all, thank you very much for today. It's absolutely fantastic. It's been a real revelation. A lot of what you said, some of it we know, not all of it. And I'm sure, could you please say something about hemp, and particularly about hemp oil? Is that something you've been looking into, hemp products?
As in CBD?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, please.
So, having been married to a pothead for a long time, I was very against all that, because I didn't get much of a conversation after that. And but having now seen my best friend's mum suffering from cancer and being told she had 3 months left to live 5 years ago, and having access to that oil and prolonging her life for 5 years, I think the CBD side of it is unbelievable. And this is someone who has never took a drug in my life except what was pumped in me in the hospital, because my best friend died of a drugs overdose when I was a teenager, so that just freaked me out, any kind of uncontrolled drug. I think for the medical side, it should absolutely be legalized in every way for every. What worries me is the recreational side, because I've seen. Can you hear me? Sorry, they probably had enough of me talking and just get off the bloody stage, Heather. So I'm very, very for it for medical purposes. I know for a fact it does kill your brain cells, the other side of it. What's the other one called, CBD? Yeah, that bit. I can't have a serious conversation with somebody on that, on the high side. And if they can control it, I'm sure it's fine. But I've seen a lot of my friends' kids end up with severe mental problems on the other side. But the healthy CBD side, and if you have digestive problems, I think sticking it up the jacksie seems to work really well, from what I've been told, to get into your bloodstream for anybody that's really ill. But I just think, you know, all oils can go rancid, so you'd have to really know where it's coming from. And I'm not the expert in that area, but I have seen a number of people's parents survive for years longer. And the high side is good when they're in pain completely, and that's helping them with their pain. I just think they should do anything to, because pain, I've lived with pain most of my life, and it's a horrible thing to live with. So anything that helps naturally in that area, I think, is brilliant. I just don't think it should be used massively recreationally. If you want to have a clear brain, you certainly won't have a successful business. You might be a successful recording artist, but you couldn't run a team of people. Any other questions?
Thanks, Helen. It was really just, there's a lot of debate now about plastic in the environment and so on. And obviously from your point of view, leather shoes versus plastic shoes, leather bags versus, what do you...
I forgot, just kick me off the stage if I'm delaying the next speaker, but I basically, plastic, leather, I make vegan shoes as well. So I've created all the solutions and I make them high and sexy. You've got your Birkenstocky people that make the flat hippy-dippy shoes that people like, that's great, but I'm a high heel girl, so I made a whole sexier range to get the aspirational people over and the superficial people over to that lifestyle, as well as the makeup. Plastic wise, we've been developing with our algal oil, as Just Eat have with a little seaweed sachet for their tomato ketchup, a seaweed based plastic. They've got it on a small scale at the moment that you can just press the sachet and the tomato ketchup will come out, which is a brilliant idea. It's very, very expensive and the supermarkets won't pay for that at the moment, but just like the 1980s when I carried my mobile phone that was the size of a truck, we will get to that point where the demand will bring the cost down. The technology's there to get rid of plastic and the biodegradable side. But again, when we get people that don't understand the development, the costs, the science, say to us, oh, well, no, you've got your product, it's got plastic in it. And I'll say, well, it's frozen food and it also needs to go in a truck and be shipped. I will send you it in cardboard now and one in plastic, and you tell me which arrives at your door in a better state. And if you're happy for it to be mushed down, I'm fine to send you it in cardboard. Then they rang up and went, oh, okay, I get your point. So it's when you have a complaint about something, always think outside the box and always come up with a solution. So it's no good complaining about things in life if you don't find the solution yourself. You've got to go out and find a solution. But wasting energy complaining is not going to work. I think there should be a tax on litterers, and literally there should be the litter police that video things, and they should be forced to, the litter in England is unbelievable. If you go to Austria, you just don't see anywhere. It's like unbelievable. So I think we need to take care of things more. I think, I work with a lot of prisoners who I used to get to take my legs apart, not these ones, but the prosthetic ones. And we used to ship down thousands of things to the former Yugoslavia. And I think we should get prisoners out more. So instead of costing the taxpayer $38,000 a month to put a guy that's defrauded, NatWest, get him out with a team to train people, use that brain science, cleaning the streets, everything, because they're not a threat, they're not exactly, murderers and paedophiles. So I think there's a lot more common sense could be going on in our environment, and we just need a government with common sense to sort that out. Yeah? I've got a family who are smokers, and I stopped hugging them because it really does stink. I'm sorry. It doesn't matter how much you put the mint in your mouth. I can smell you a mile off. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is that they went to the doctors, and even though I'm against medical, bad stuff, they got some kind of tablet that every time they put a cigarette near their mouth, it made them want to throw up. It was a nausea reaction. And he's shaking his head, this guy in front of you, so you can counsel her here and get her off the cigarettes, because my best friend's mum did eventually die last Friday from cancer from smoking, even though the CBD kept her alive for another 5 years. So I think all cigarette tax should go straight to the NHS, all alcohol tax, and I like a glass of wine, it should go straight to the NHS. And I think we should start to really look at the country of where things are being sucked dry and reasons why. So sugar, high sugar, alcohol and everything, it should all just be going straight to the NHS as far as I'm concerned. Those nurses work their backsides off. And all my mates in Newcastle who voted for Brexit, I did tell them they will lose their jobs, and they were naive thinking, oh, you know, the immigrants won't come. I said, who's going to clean your mum's backside? You're not going to clean it in hospital. And everything we predicted, the nurses dropped in applications because they're all amazing immigrants that are doing the job that we snoots won't do. So we have to accept we are a world of immigrants, and we're all from different, you know, ethnicities and backgrounds and everything, and we need to, you know, be integrated and less aggression and more understanding, and get rid of people who can work and just live off benefits. There are people that need and deserve benefits, and there are people that are just sucking the system dry. So I would have a massive camp for those lot and get them cleaning up Britain. But I'm an extremist, which is why I don't take drugs, because if I liked them, I'd be a heroin addict or something. Any other questions? No, thank you very much. Have a good day.